Hi, this is Ben Hart for BitcoinInstitute.net. And the question I will talk about here today is, does Bitcoin burn too much electricity? This has probably been the number one criticism of Bitcoin by people who have really not studied Bitcoin. It certainly is true that the Bitcoin mining network burns a lot of electricity. More electricity than a small country like Austria, or about the same as a country like Sweden. And critics say this is a waste. Before I address this claim, I hope you will hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notifications button so that you won't miss future videos. And perhaps also check out my new book on Bitcoin, Your Off-Ramp from the Corrupt Political System and Protection from Economic Collapse. And after this video, head on over to BitcoinInstitute.net to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. All right, let's launch in. Does Bitcoin burn too much electricity? And is this a waste? One of the pillars of Bitcoin's security structure is its proof-of-work mining system. This is where the electricity is used. What is proof-of-work mining? Well, proof-of-work mining involves a worldwide network of more than 1 million powerful mining computers racing to solve a math puzzle. More accurately, they are racing to guess a number that must start with the right number of zeros. A new block of transactions is assembled about every 10 minutes on average. So this race to guess the right number occurs about every 10 minutes. The winning mining computer wins a block reward of 6.25 bitcoins, plus transaction fees. With more than 1 million very powerful ASIC mining computers racing to guess this number every 10 minutes, this process consumes a lot of electricity. The hash rate for the Bitcoin mining network is closely watched by Bitcoin miners, and it's a number that you can Google search and look up. The hash rate for the Bitcoin network is the number of guesses the Bitcoin mining network is making per second to find the correct proof-of-work number. And as I check right now, the number of guesses the Bitcoin mining network is making per second is about 219 quintillion guesses per second. This is an almost unfathomable, mind-bending number per second. What is a quintillion? Well, first think of 1 billion, then 1 trillion, then a quadrillion, then a quintillion. So 1 quintillion is 1 million times bigger than 1 trillion. Think about that. And then think 219 quintillion guesses per second. This requires immense brute force computing power and electricity. If you've ever seen just one ASIC Bitcoin mining computer operate, it makes a lot of noise.
Here goes the Z9 Mini. And then we take a step over here. And we got our two E3 miners, and then we got an S9J and an S9.
You would not want one in your house because you would not be able to sleep at night. You would probably want it in your garage or a separate structure away from your house. But then your neighbors might complain because of the noise. That's how hard one ASIC mining computer is working to guess the proof-of-work number every 10 minutes on average. Now imagine more than 1 million of these computers around the world competing to guess the right number to solve the proof-of-work math puzzle, to win the 6.25 Bitcoin mining reward, plus transaction fees, along with the privilege of assembling the next block of transactions and inserting that block into the immutable blockchain. Now an ASIC mining computer, ASIC, A-S-I-C, ASIC mining computer can only be used for one purpose, and that's mining Bitcoin. In the early days of Bitcoin, a standard computer could be used to mine for Bitcoin. But as the price of Bitcoin increased and more miners joined the race to guess the number, more powerful computers were needed to be competitive. Every ounce of computing power is needed to guess the right number, when there's 1 million Bitcoin mining computers racing to guess this number. And so the circuits need to be specially designed to harness the computing power more efficiently. ASIC, A-S-I-C, stands for Application-Specific Integrated Circuit. And that's what Bitcoin mining computers are. This decentralized proof-of-work mining system is the most secure method of securing a computer network ever developed. In fact, the SHA-256 hashing algorithm that generates this number was developed by the National Security Agency to secure our military's computer networks. This number that these computers must guess is called a nonce, which stands for a number that can only be used once. And it's a key element of SHA-256 cryptography. An alternative system is called proof-of-stake. Ethereum has now transitioned from a proof-of-work system to a proof-of-stake system, because proof-of-work was not working for what Ethereum was trying to build. Ethereum is not trying to be a money network. Ethereum is trying to build a decentralized internet for decentralized applications. Ethereum says it's trying to host decentralized video games and other decentralized computer applications on a decentralized platform. Good video games must be super realistic and fast. A decentralized proof-of-work blockchain is not the right platform for video games or for most applications. So Ethereum is transitioning to a speedier proof-of-stake system, which is speedier, but it's not at all secure. About $1 billion per year is stolen by hackers from applications built on the Ethereum network. And more on the folly of proof-of-stake in a moment. A decentralized proof-of-work blockchain is designed for security, not so much for speed. Bitcoin is just trying to be one thing: honest money. Bitcoin is a synchronized ledger of transactions distributed about every 10 minutes to Bitcoin's network of nodes and miners around the world. That's all it is, a ledger of transactions, distributed simultaneously to everyone on the network. The Bitcoin network is not trying to be a platform for video games and complex applications. The Bitcoin network is like Fort Knox in cyberspace. It's designed to secure wealth. It's designed to secure the world's money. Right now, the market cap, or the money value of the Bitcoin network, fluctuates between about $400 billion and about $1 trillion, depending on Bitcoin's price. This requires a lot of security to protect. There are a lot of very smart hackers out there who would like to hack Bitcoin. And there are powerful governments, including China's regime, that would like to destroy Bitcoin, because Bitcoin directly competes with fiat currencies issued by governments. Bitcoin is trying to be an alternative money system, independent from government. Bitcoin separates money from state. So Bitcoin has many enemies out there, including China, and perhaps even the government of the United States. Though so far the US government has been pretty neutral on Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is to survive, it needs the most powerful security imaginable. And Bitcoin has many layers of security that interlock and work together to protect the network. One layer of security is Bitcoin's guerrilla army of more than 1 million Bitcoin miners and nodes spread out around the world who are incentivized to protect your Bitcoin. Because by protecting your Bitcoin, they are protecting the value of their own Bitcoin, which they are working so hard to mine and to accumulate. If there were ever a successful hack of the Bitcoin network, if there is ever a double spend, this could send the value of Bitcoin to zero. As the United States learned from the Vietnam War, it's very difficult to defeat a guerrilla army. This is why the more decentralized Bitcoin becomes, the more miners and nodes are added to the network, the more secure the network becomes. With Bitcoin, there's no headquarters for a government to attack. A government would have to take down every computer on the Bitcoin network to destroy Bitcoin. So long as there is a copy of the Bitcoin ledger somewhere, Bitcoin still exists, and the network would grow back. I've often compared Bitcoin to weeds. Yes, you might be able to control the weed problem in your yard, but the weeds always grow back. That's Bitcoin, because it's a highly decentralized network. Bitcoin is like the multi-headed Hydra creature in Greek mythology. If you try to cut off one head, the Hydra grows back 2 heads. The more it's attacked, the stronger it grows and the more heads it has. That's Bitcoin. So one layer of Bitcoin security is its vast network of more than 1 million mining computers and nodes spread out around the world, a network that is always growing. You might remember that China's regime outlawed Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin transactions in the summer of 2021. At that point, more than half of Bitcoin mining was taking place in China. When China banned Bitcoin mining, the worldwide Bitcoin hash rate was roughly cut in half. But within about 4 months, the worldwide Bitcoin mining hash rate was back up to where it was before China's Bitcoin mining ban, as China's miners moved to more hospitable countries to reestablish their mining operations. Plus, very interesting to me, is that Bitcoin mining is actually making a comeback in China despite China's mining ban. About 20% of the world's Bitcoin mining is now happening again in China. Bitcoin mining was almost down to zero in the wake of China's crackdown on China's miners in 2021. But Bitcoin is now coming back strong in China. And it seems that there isn't much China can do about it. Or maybe the regime has just given up. China's miners are now out there in the mountains mining off the grid. And China's government either can't find them or isn't willing to expend the effort to find them and shut down their mining operations. That's the power of decentralization. The more decentralized a network is, the tougher it is for government to destroy it. Bitcoin is the only truly decentralized crypto asset out there. So decentralization is crucial to Bitcoin security. But another key pillar of Bitcoin security is the wall of brute force computing power that secures the network. This is the proof-of-work number guessing race that ensues every 10 minutes to win the 6.25 Bitcoin mining reward. It should also be noted that the algorithm adjusts the difficulty of this math puzzle up and down every 2016 blocks, or about every 2 weeks, to keep to Satoshi's timetable of 1 block mined and assembled every 10 minutes on average. In general, the difficulty of the math puzzle is adjusted upward over time as the price of Bitcoin rises and more miners come into the network to compete for the block mining reward. But sometimes the math puzzle is made easier, such as during China's crackdown on miners. So there was temporarily fewer miners on the network, competing for the block mining reward. But for the most part, the difficulty of the number the computers must guess increases over time. If the number is too difficult to guess, that's not good because then transactions could not be processed in a timely way. The network would become frozen. But if the math puzzle is too easy, the network is less secure and becomes more prone to a denial of service attack. Bitcoin's structure is designed so that the higher Bitcoin's price and the more miners are added to the network, the more secure it becomes. It becomes more secure because more miners means more decentralization, so more security. The network also becomes more secure because the difficulty of the math puzzle increases as the number of miners increases who compete for the block mining reward. It's also important to note that the race to guess the correct number is more like a lottery than a race. Your odds of guessing the right number are in direct proportion to the amount of computing power that you are expending. What this proof-of-work mining system primarily guards against is a denial of service attack, a DOS attack. Denial of service attacks work by bombarding a network with gazillions of fake transactions, which freezes the network and makes it unable to function. Often then what happens is a ransom is demanded to call off the attack. In the physical world, it would be like a large crowd of people standing in front of an entrance to your store, so that real customers are unable to enter your store. By requiring a proof-of-work math puzzle to be solved, this increases the cost of participating in the transaction verification process and competing for the block mining reward. The SHA-256 algorithm is able to increase costs infinitely, as needed, to protect the network from being frozen with fake transactions. Now, it certainly would be possible for an attacker to win the race to mine 1 block of transactions. But remember, the transactions in the block are sent out to the network for confirmation before the block can be inserted into the blockchain. Some theorize that a major potential attacker, let's say China, could deploy enough computing power to win the race to mine many blocks in succession. So could bog down and freeze the network and create a fraudulent blockchain in secret, But fortunately, Bitcoin has safeguards against that too. If something like that were to happen, the network of miners would know exactly what was happening to cause the network to freeze. And they would know that an attacker was trying to create a fraudulent chain. So far, the Bitcoin network has never been offline, even for a few seconds. But if that were to occur, there are two remedies. Let's say the China regime attempts such an attack and manages to freeze the network and cause it to go offline, while China's hackers build a fraudulent chain in secret and out of public view. Here's how that can be countered. Option number one, a 95% vote of miners and nodes could just cancel whatever China did. Option number two, miners and developers could create a hard fork in the blockchain. The market would then decide which is the honest blockchain and which is the fraudulent branch. And the market would likely, I would say certainly, follow the honest chain. Hard forks can always be created in the blockchain, really by anyone. And this has happened several times in Bitcoin's history, such as with Bitcoin Cash and others. The market then decides which branch in the fork to follow. And I'll do another video on how hard forks work, and how a hard fork can be created to try to attack the network, but also can be used to protect the network from attackers. As I said, Bitcoin has many layers of security. So far, Bitcoin has never been successfully attacked. People have had their private keys stolen, so lost their Bitcoin that way. But Bitcoin's underlying security has never been hacked. But let's get back to how one element of Bitcoin's security is its proof-of-work mining system, which involves brute force computing power, and which requires enormous amounts of electricity. And let's talk about whether this is wasteful. Well, one question you might ask is it wasteful to use electrical power to secure a $400 billion asset that is sometimes a $1 trillion asset, and that is quite likely to become a $10 trillion asset by the end of this decade? It's even quite possible that Bitcoin could become the world reserve currency at some point, perhaps over the course of the next 20 years or so. How much energy should we expend to secure the world's money? Well, the United States spends about $1 trillion per year on its military. Additional trillions of dollars are spent on police, our court system, our banking system, on vaults and safes, and on all kinds of ways to secure our money and our assets, which includes property, our homes. Think about the amount of electricity and the amount of money that is expended to protect our country, and to protect your property, and to protect your family. Is this a waste? Most crimes are committed over money. Our courts are clogged up with fights over money. What is money? Well, money is a way for you to store your life's work and the energy that you've expended to earn it. If you were to lose all of your money to a thief, that would be extremely serious. You might starve. Wars are fought over territory. Countries invade other countries to acquire territory, to acquire property and the resources of that country. That's what Vladimir Putin is doing to Ukraine right now with his invasion. So we spend an enormous amount of resources, including energy, to protect our country from being attacked and conquered. And we spend an enormous amount of money to protect our property and our money. How much fuel do our military planes, tanks, aircraft carriers, destroyers, and submarines consume? How much fuel are police cars consuming? How much electricity is our government and our banking system using to secure our money, our property, and our country? How much is enough to spend on defense, on police, and on security? Well, we found out on December 7th, 1941, that we did not have enough military defense. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Meanwhile, Hitler was sweeping across Europe, so the Europeans weren't spending enough on defense either. In the physical world, property is secured by physical force, by violent kinetic power in the form of military, police, guns, and bombs. In the physical world, the winner is the one that can deploy the most military, kinetic, physical force. Every empire in the history of the world was assembled through the use of violent kinetic force. Whether it's the Egyptian Empire, the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, the British Empire, Genghis Khan, every empire is built that way. Every country in the world was established with the violent use of physical force, military force. Those who are unable to deploy violent kinetic force in the form of military power won't have a country, won't have property, because violent kinetic force is required to secure property in the physical world. We need a military, we need police, we need courts, we need jails. In the digital world, the equivalent of violent kinetic force is electrical power. Anyone who has touched an electric horse fence knows how unpleasant that is. Enough electric current will kill you. Every bit as much as a bullet coming out of a gun will kill you, or a bomb will kill you. A single bolt of lightning is about 300 million volts and about 30,000 amps, compared to 120 volts and 15 amps for your household electric current. Brute force computing power is how we secure computer networks, including the computing networks that our military relies on. This requires enormous expenditures of electric power. So yes, the Bitcoin network uses a lot of computing power and electricity to secure this $400 billion monetary network. Sometimes it's $1 trillion monetary network. And Bitcoin could one day become the world reserve currency, could become the primary money that the world uses. How much is it worth to make sure that the money of the world is secure? Now, the truth is, the Bitcoin network does not use as much electric power as many of our activities that we might consider frivolous. Video gaming consumes more electricity than Bitcoin mining, as do Christmas lights. So really, when Bitcoin mining is accused of using too much electric power, this really depends on your priorities. What's more important, video gaming or securing what potentially is the world's money, the world's store of wealth? I would say potentially securing the world's money for 8 billion people is probably more important than video gaming or Christmas lights. And I certainly have no problem with video games or Christmas lights. Washing machines and dryers for laundry consume vastly more energy than Bitcoin mining. Maybe we could all save on electricity by going back to using clotheslines outside. Our dishwashers, refrigerators, TVs, computers, and air conditioners also use an enormous amount of electricity, vastly more than Bitcoin mining. We could cut all of this out if we want to live simpler lives, because most of us prioritize our comfort, convenience, and entertainment over saving electricity. Is protecting a $400 billion money network important? Especially one that might hit $10 trillion in value in a few years. Bitcoin is not just an asset that people invest in, it's money. It's an alternative money system, independent from government's corrupt fiat money printing system. Bitcoin is the only money for many impoverished people who live in the third world, who live in collapsed economies and political systems, where inflation rates are 50%, 100%, 1,000% and higher. How much is it worth to give people in these countries access to honest money?
One of the biggest challenges to explaining Bitcoin is somebody who comes already with the pre-knowledge of what Bitcoin is, and then they come to you and say, like, how much do I join? You try to convince the person that it's not about joining. It's like a revolution. It's like a new technology arising altogether. It's about you understanding that, like, for me, it's liberation, freedom, the ability to be able to control your money, your own money, or the ability to send any amount of crypto or carry it. Imagine if you were to carry a chunk of gold, you want to pass through the border or whatever, you can't. So that's the beauty of Bitcoin.
But here's something else to keep in mind. A Bitcoin miner's biggest cost is electricity. So Bitcoin miners are always looking for sources of electricity that are either free or almost free. So Bitcoin miners tend not to be located in densely populated areas where electric power is expensive. They tend not to locate in places like New York City or Los Angeles or Chicago or Tokyo. Bitcoin miners tend to go to remote locations where they can tap into free renewable energy that's provided by nature. They set up solar panels in the desert or on mountaintops, or they set up their mining computers at the base of a glacier, where there's an endless source of free-running water to power their computers. In this way, Bitcoin mining actually incentivizes the world's transition to clean renewable energy. Bitcoin mining also incentivizes the spreading out of the world's population away from urban areas and away from centralized power grids, which is also good for the planet. In 2021, El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender. El Salvador is building Bitcoin City on the southern coast of El Salvador near the Conchaga volcano. The Conchaga volcano is said not to be dangerous, but does supply free geothermal energy, which will be used to power Bitcoin City's power grid, as well as Bitcoin mining, and which will fund the building of Bitcoin City.
Today is a very special day. I'm in El Salvador, and right now we are going to see mining farm, very special one, mining farm using green energy of volcano. Now we are here inside this geothermal volcanic energy, fully green energy. It's wonderful. I never seen such an amazing Bitcoin mining plant.
El Salvador is issuing a $10 billion bond. Half the proceeds from this bond will be invested in Bitcoin mining and accumulating Bitcoin. The other half will be used to build the city's infrastructure. El Salvador President Bukele says the only tax for Bitcoin City will be a value-added tax. President Bukele says, quote, "Invest here and make all the money you want. This is a fully ecological city that works and is energized by a volcano," end quote. President Bukele says the infrastructure for the city will cost about 300,000 Bitcoins. He believes El Salvador will become the Hong Kong or Singapore of Latin America. The Bitcoin City project has already greatly boosted tourism to El Salvador, as many Bitcoin enthusiasts are going there to take a look. Some Bitcoiners are even moving to El Salvador to become part of history.
Talk to me about moving to El Salvador and getting the citizenship. One, why are you moving? Why are you getting the citizenship? But also, two, how does it actually work from a kind of operational standpoint?
Right. So the volcano bonds that was a big story. So the idea was floated, hey, you put 100,000 into these volcano bonds and you're on the fast track to citizenship or permanent residency. So I tweeted that, we're very interested in this. We would love to become Salvadorian citizens. And within a half hour, we were getting tweets back and feedback back from the president and other people in the government saying, we'll make you citizens ASAP, by the end of this year. We want entrepreneurs. We think you guys would be great leading the pack in a whole wave of Bitcoin immigrants who are looking for Bitcoin City, looking for a Bitcoin country. For me, this is the biggest thing since the Genesis block. For me, since I've been in this for 10 years, this is the most exciting thing I've seen really in many, many years. So that's put all together and packing our bags and going.
Yeah. Would you guys become Salvadorian citizens?
I would. I'm curious, what the response was from, or the vibe from, citizens down there. Do they understand exactly what's going on? Are they super excited about it? Or
Well, my pitch to everybody is essentially here's unconfiscatable money. It's censorship-proof money, right? And everybody wants to have savings. Everyone wants to have some store of wealth. Everybody wants to build a nest egg. Everyone wants to have a future. And the problem in these various countries is that they've been dealing with inflation and hyperinflation and corruption. And so when you say, look, here's money that only you control, and it's the hardest money ever, that just immediately gets people's attention. And it's a real need. There's a need for it.
In other words, far from being a waste of energy, Bitcoin mining is creating a brand new city, which is being financed by Bitcoin mining and powered by free geothermal energy from a volcano. I think that's pretty cool. Another source of very cheap energy for Bitcoin miners is methane gas, that is the byproduct of drilling for oil. This methane gas is just being released into the air by oil drillers. Bitcoin miners have made deals with the oil companies to use this excess methane gas to power their mining computers. Methane gas that would otherwise just be released into the air and wasted. Texas is also finding that Bitcoin miners can help stabilize the Texas power grid So we're inviting Bitcoin miners to set up their operations in Texas. The way power grids work is to always produce more power than is needed. That is, to produce excess power. Excess power is needed in case of a heat wave, which requires extra power for people's air conditioning. Or extra power is needed in northern areas for Arctic blasts and cold snaps. So Texas is telling Bitcoin miners that they can use this excess power for their mining operations and pay a low fee for this electric power. That is, for the power that would otherwise go unused and wasted. When there's a heat wave, Texas officials tell the Bitcoin miners to turn off their mining computers. In this way, Bitcoin mining is helping to stabilize the Texas power grid and fund improvements to the power grid. Texas loves Bitcoin miners. Texas wants Texas to be the Bitcoin mining capital of the world. So most Bitcoin miners are not consuming electric power that would otherwise be used by people, because it makes no business sense for Bitcoin miners to pay for expensive electricity. They go to where the electricity is super cheap or free. They use excess power that would otherwise be wasted, or they tap into the free energy that nature provides, such as power provided by El Salvador's Conchaga volcano, which is creating an entire new city. Bitcoin mining is not putting pressure on existing power grids. Quite the opposite. Bitcoin mining is subsidizing the creation of new power grids and improvements to existing power grids. Because Bitcoin mining incentivizes the search for free sources of power supplied by nature, this incentivizes the spreading out of populations to more remote locations. This provides people with more affordable living options. People are able to live for almost free in these remote locations. This becomes even more possible with satellite-based internet, such as Elon Musk's Starlink. With Starlink plus Bitcoin mining, you'll be able to live out in the middle of nowhere for almost free. You'll be taking electricity away from no one. You'll be generating your own electricity and your own money with solar power, wind turbines, or wherever you can find running water to power your mining rigs. Here's a guy in Guatemala powering his Bitcoin mining rigs with used cooking oil.
Lago Bitcoin wasting to hashes. Nasty used cooking oil. Oh, how dirty is it? And this is my baby right here. Mining, and guess what? It's hashes. Kaboom!
If you choose to become a Bitcoin miner, you will also be helping to protect and secure the world's money while processing transactions and guarding the Bitcoin network. And you'll be helping to provide access to money to the unbanked of the world. I think that's pretty cool. About 25% of the world has no access to banking, no bank accounts. This means they effectively have no access to money. Again, many people live in countries with collapsed political and economic systems, countries that have 50%, 100%, and 1,000% inflation rates. And this is what most attracts Twitter founder Jack Dorsey to Bitcoin. At the end of 2021, Jack Dorsey quit as CEO of Twitter. He says to dedicate himself to Bitcoin and to giving the unbanked of the world access to honest money for the first time in their lives.
Money is a foundational layer that enables so much more. I was meeting with an entrepreneur in Ethiopia, and payments is probably the number one problem to solve across the continent, both in terms of moving money across borders between nations on the continent, or the amount of corruption within the current system. But the lack of easy ways to pay people makes starting anything really difficult. I met an entrepreneur who started the Lyft/Uber of Ethiopia, and one of the biggest problems she has is that it's not easy for her riders to pay the company, and it's not easy for her to pay the drivers.
Bitcoin is now the preferred currency in much of Africa, Latin America, Asia, and the Third World. What's it worth to provide a stable money system to these people? to people in the third world who have never had a bank account and who have never had access to money. And what's it worth to build an honest money network that runs by itself and that the government has nothing to do with? What's it worth to separate money from state? I think it's worth quite a bit. Now let's take a moment to compare Bitcoin's proof-of-work security system with an alternative system called proof-of-stake, which is what Ethereum is transitioning to. Ethereum, of course, is the number 2 crypto asset out there in terms of market value. It's about half the size of Bitcoin. In a proof-of-stake security and governance system, your power over the network is in direct proportion to the number of coins you've staked. So the number of votes that you have in the system are in proportion to the number of coins that you own. Ethereum's founder, Vitalik Buterin, and a few insiders own more than 50% of the circulating supply of ETH, so always control most of the votes. The reason Vitalik and a small group of insiders own most of the ETH coins is they awarded themselves the majority of supply as part of a pre-mine at the founding, before making ETH coins available to the public. Furthermore, one's odds of being awarded additional coins in Ethereum's system are in direct proportion to the number of coins that you've staked in the system. So this structure incentivizes further centralization and further consolidation of power over the network in the hands of a few insiders. And no work is required. You just have to have the most coins, which means you'll get awarded more coins. So it'd be as if like Elon Musk was getting larger checks from the government every month because he's the richest guy in the world. So therefore he gets more money from the government. That's how the Ethereum system works. Under Ethereum's proof-of-stake system, the rich always get richer and acquire more votes in the governance of the network. By contrast, the people with the most coins in the Bitcoin network have no more say in the governance of the network than anyone else. In fact, it takes a 95% vote by miners and nodes to make any changes to Bitcoin. There's nothing decentralized about Ethereum. JP Morgan Chase Bank is more decentralized than Ethereum, and more accountable. Ethereum is accountable to no one but Vitalik and a small group of oligarchs. Ethereum has no fixed set of rules. The rules are whatever Ethereum founder Vitalik says the new rules are when he wakes up in the morning. In fact, Vitalik has often threatened to vaporize people's ETH coins if they don't do what Vitalik wants them to do. So there's nothing decentralized or secure about Ethereum. Ethereum is under the total control of Vitalik. Proof-of-stake blockchain systems are also famously not secure. About $1 billion every year is stolen by hackers from applications built on Ethereum. And Ethereum is not actually a competitor to Bitcoin because Ethereum is not trying to be money. Ethereum says it's trying to build a decentralized internet for decentralized applications. But it's not decentralized, and the applications don't work well at all, which is why Ethereum is transitioning from a proof-of-work system to a proof-of-stake system. And if you want to know the 17 reasons why I do not invest in Ethereum, I have a video on that over here. So I encourage you to check that out. A decentralized proof-of-work blockchain is the most secure possible system for a ledger of money transactions. But it's no good for applications such as video games, which is what Ethereum is trying to build. I'm not interested in video games or decentralized applications. I have plenty of applications on my phone, and I only use a few of them. I'm interested in honest money. I'm interested in money that cannot be devalued daily by the Fed's money printing press. I'm interested in unconfiscatable money that cannot be seized by government or by anyone else. And if you found this video useful, please be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notifications button, as this really helps boost the video and this channel with the algorithms, and so we can get this information out there to more people. You can also sign up for my free Bitcoin weekly report at bitcoininstitute.net. Also follow me on Twitter and check out my book on Bitcoin. And you'll find the links to all of this below. Well, that's it for today. I hope to see you back here for the next video.